And it's the Lace Out Round 14 review of a massive round of AFL football. Well, ladies and gentlemen, over the last number of weeks, we've had co-hosts from Melbourne. We even reached all the way across to the US of A last week with the amazing Craig Wesselson. Thank you very much for that. Absolute superstar he is. I'll tell you what, we've gone one step further. We have got one of the local TV superstars here in Australia. The face and the voice might sound familiar. Well, we've got Bevan Bevo Jones, host of Legends With Bevo. How you going, great man? And welcome to the show to chat about everything AFL football, but more importantly, to talk about everything that's going on football style in in Adelaide, because Port Adelaide are on fire at the moment.
G'day, Peps. Great to be with you, mate, and thanks for having me on. And you're absolutely spot on. I've been on Crago's show a couple of times, and I don't know if that bloke ever sleeps. His passion for the AFL is just next level, isn't it?
He is dead set out of control, and he comes up with stats, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like nodding, but in the background I'm looking at him going, Craig, mate, listen, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. We're like magicians here. There's a lot of Shazam and a lot of smoke and mirrors, not a lot of substance. He's the complete opposite. He's American and knows more about it than us. So and I'd love to have him on as well too. But for the people who don't know you, Legends with Bevo, how long has it been going on for? Because like I said, I literally turned on the TV the other night and I saw you, and then we started chatting back and forth. I've gone, hold on, 1 + 1 = 2, and I didn't even realise that it added up. So how long? Tell the people who haven't heard about you before the show, how long it's been around for.
Yeah, sure.
You've got in touch with too, because I was very happy with those as well.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned before, you're talking about Phil Smythe. Mate, he's actually, believe it or not, so Phil's a good mate of mine, and I used to do a bit of radio. I was producing a radio show with Phil back in the day on community radio here in Adelaide, and with another legend in Ken KG Cunningham. A lot of South Australians will be familiar with, probably not so much the rest of the country. But, so back in 2017, I was producing a show with Phil and KG and another guy, Tuggers, who's doing some really good things here in commercial radio in Adelaide. And basically I got to know Phil really well. And then I had a dream gig in the Riverland in regional South Australia for 6 months from late 2017 to about sort of March, April in 2018. And then unfortunately that fell through, came back to Adelaide. It's like, what am I going to do next? And caught up with Smythe and, just had a bit of a yarn to him. And he's not only a good mate, also a mentor. And as he's talked about off air, an absolute legend, 4-time Olympian and championship coach here in the Adelaide 36ers and also a champion player with the Adelaide 36ers as well. So, and played for the Canberra Cannons. And so he's a legend, and also doing some good things in the AFL at the moment with the Brisbane Lions. So he's certainly going along quite nicely. But so Smythe and I caught up back in 2018 and had a bit of a chat, and he's like, mate, online footy tipping seems to be the way to go these days. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not really too sure what this is all about, but we'll give it a go. And so a Friday arvo, maybe it was probably a couple of weeks after I got back from the regional gig, and Smythe and I just caught up and just basically gave our footy tips, had someone filming for us, and we chucked it up on social media thinking we'd have maybe 50 or 100 people watching at most. We had about 1,000 views, and that was mainly because of Phil, not because of me. And then
no, you've got a beautiful face for radio.
Definitely not for television. And then so basically, the rest of 2018, I was just getting on. Phil was too busy to come on every week, so I just get different sample players, sports people from Adelaide that would just come on and chat about their careers and give their footy tips. And Peps, it went so well that come the end of 2018 when the footy season was finished, I'm like, I want to keep this going. So we changed the name to Chewing the Fat, and then basically, what are we now, late or sort of June 2023, and I've done over 200 episodes, and as you mentioned before, I've got it now on Channel 44 in Adelaide and Channel 31 in Melbourne and Geelong, which is just amazing. And I guess sort of pinch myself that it's gone from just a little thing basically filmed on a mobile phone to now this being filmed in this world-class studio at Pop Booth in Adelaide. Been so fortunate to interview so many incredible people, and I'm very blessed for that. And especially someone who's never played footy at the highest level or sport at the highest level. I've never been on Triple M as a presenter or anything like that, or any of the other commercial radio stations. So I've been really fortunate to get so many great guests. And yeah, like you mentioned off air as well, Dennis I've had on, and he was just a great bloke, Dennis Cometti.
Dennis Cometti. Dennis Cometti. And if everybody knows, the great Jamie and I have a special soft spot for D Cometti because he was just everything that was about football commentary. Just loved it.
Yeah, he was just absolutely spot on and such a down to earth bloke as well. And we actually chatted off air after the interview, and he said, you know, if you ever want to send through some commentary to me, I'd be happy to critique it for you. And that's the sort of person that Dennis is. He's just a real down to earth, what you see is what you get sort of bloke. And as you know, Peps, there's a lot of egos in this media world these days, and particularly, we won't talk about reality TV star people, but they're probably one of the worst for that. But there's also a lot of great people, as I've learned since having Legends with Bevo, and particularly during the COVID situation, you know, whilst everyone was locked up, especially you poor Victorians, a bit tougher than most.
Oh yeah, we had it rough. We had it rough.
Yeah, you had it very rough. Yeah, we only had a few days in SA. So, but yeah, that was actually a real, I guess, situation whereby it was so sad to see what everyone was going through. But then everyone was able to just chat on Zoom, and I guess it's opened up some new doors. Not just for me, but everyone in podcasting now that you can chat to people around like we're doing tonight. You can chat to people around the world and around Australia. And, you know, I don't have to necessarily chat to SA people now. I can get people from – I've even had Phil Liggett in his lounge room, you know, like the legend of cycling. Just people like that. And
you can just get anybody. You can even get people over here in Melbourne who, like we have full-on internet in our home. And it's a bit of a joke because Bevo just moved into a brand new house, everybody, and he hasn't got his NBN connected, so he's hotspotting right now. You'll get it too. The 25 speed is absolutely awesome. But hey, listen, before we get into the latest and get into everything, everybody's joining us on the chat again. Lee Ali, the great man, is back. Tori, the superstar Williams, she's an absolute superstar. Just loves talking every week. Buzz, hey, did St Kilda win on the weekend, Bevo? I think did they win? Did they win or they lose on the weekend? I can't remember.
Yeah.
They lost, I think, didn't they?
But they should have won. They missed some easy shots in that last quarter, didn't they? So
Buzz is on, and usually Buzz doesn't come on if St Kilda wins. So something must have gone. But he's going, Peps hasn't played at the highest level. Well, actually, I have. I played for Essendon in the 1987 Elastoplast Little League Premiership team, Buzz, and a 377-game superstar of the East Keilor Football Club. But we're not going to go into that too. But, hey, massive round 14 of footy. We've got to throw up the ladder right now. We love to get into that nice and early. Let's get into it because there was a bit of movement. There was only 6 games on the weekend as well too. But Port Adelaide, how many in a row now? 11?
11 in a row. I was there on Thursday night, Peps, and yeah, in that first quarter, the Cats were all over us, and you know, like to turn things around with that amazing third quarter where they kicked 7 goals in a row. I didn't see it coming, and against last year's premiers,
no one. I thought Gary Rowan was going to rip you a new one, and for every point, if Gary Rowan had ripped you a new one, there's something wrong because he was his hand in everything.
Oh no, he was just taking everything, wasn't he? And just absolutely flying. And I thought, yeah, we're in trouble here. This is probably going to be the game where we'll finally drop one. But they've just got this ability this year to just completely, against all odds and always, well, most weeks have been backs against the wall situations where they're just able to just come from behind and just never give up. And I think it's this young midfield they've got with Butters and Horn Francis, Rosie, and then the lesser lights like Darcy Byrne-Jones. I mean, that move from him up forward,
the hyphen has got, like, mind you, everybody with a hyphen, I just call the hyphen these days. But he's been sensational since that move because he won a rising star playing in the back pocket.
He did, mate. Yeah, and he had 9 score involvements on the weekend as well. So that's pretty huge for a forward, isn't it? So
it's massive, absolutely massive. 11 in a row, and I'm going to get into that game in a moment. Collingwood had the bye on the weekend, 44 points. Then you got my mob, the D's, and Brisbane sitting very nicely, a game clear of 5th spot. Not shit Kilda this week, Buzz. St Kilda with a great win. Can you believe that St Kilda, after everything that's been going on, are only 1 game out of top 4? Same with Essendon. Western Bulldogs needed a win to get their sort of season back on track because it was up and down for a few weeks there. The Adelaide Crows. So that's your top 8 at the moment, looking pretty settled. Richmond are making a late charge. Geelong, not too sure when it was the last time that a premier and the runners-up potentially both missed finals. It could happen for the first time this year in a long
time. It's remarkable, isn't it? And mind you, Sydney have had a lot of injuries this year. You feel a bit sorry for them, don't you?
Not really, no. No, I don't feel sorry. Look, we do feel sorry for them. They're not at the bottom of our, who don't we like, but yeah. But they lost, and I think they no backline, no McCartan brothers makes it very, very difficult from their perspective. They just haven't had consistency. GWS making a bit of a late charge. They're only a game out, but they've got a bit of percentage to make up. Fremantle had an absolute Barry Crocker on the weekend. Carlton, don't get me started on that, wherever that came from. We spoke about Sydney.
Where's Freo at? It's like, honestly.
Freo? Well, I'm going to ask you about Freo from your perspective. Like, who out of Fremantle and Gold Coast, who's been worse this year? I'd love to hear from the chat as well, too, because I think that's one that I want to have a quick chat about as well, too. Hawthorn just continue to do what Hawthorn do, and you got North Melbourne. Let's be honest, they lost on the weekend, but they are showing more heart than probably half those teams in the bottom part of the ladder. And Wet Toast, we'll forget about them. They're going to get Harley Reid, and that's all we have to worry about. So, when you're looking at this, Bevo, who's had the most disappointing season, Fremantle or Gold Coast, from your perspective?
It's a really good question. I reckon I'd say Fremantle at this stage, Pets, because a lot of people were talking them up as being a top four side this year, and last year they beat the Dogs in that come from behind final, and there's a lot of talk about them being one of the teams to contend for this year's premiership, and they've been a major disappointment for.
Been a major. But I think the thing with Freo is that you look at what they've got on the park, and they're not bad. Their game style just doesn't suit and what made it really frustrating for me as a Melbourne supporter, and I talk about it because it's the easiest team I can connect with. How we lost to them a couple of weeks ago to see what they served up against GWS.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There's some things going on over there in Perth. Both Perth, could you imagine what the Perth media would be like at the moment? Oh, you would not want to, if you were Harley Reid, you would not want to be going over to Perth because they would see you as the saviour, and he's going to be far from it. No disrespect for him, but one player is not going to change the fortunes of that club. I'd consider maybe trying to do something from a trade perspective and try and get a few more points as well, a few more picks as well too from that. All right.
Question about West Coast, mate. I just wanted to ask you about, because I've got an AFL rap show that I do here locally in Adelaide, Radio Tele Uno, and we were talking about West Coast tonight. And is there actual pressure now on Adam Simpson? I know they've had so many injuries the last couple of years and had their last year's situation with COVID and players having really limited pre-season and what have you. But is it time now that Adam Simpson starts copying a lot more pressure, or do you think he's safe, Peps, until 2024?
Well, okay, so I think there's a couple of ways that you could look at it. And I'm looking at I played in some winning teams, and I'm only going by local footy, right?
Yeah.
I played in some winning teams, and I played some absolute shocking teams. And I can tell you now, when you're a shocking team, the coach is not to blame. You're just not good enough. That's one aspect of it, all right? If they brought in another coach, would it make a difference? I don't think it would. You could bring in Damien Hardwick into West Coast and you might get a bit of a spike, but that's it. It's not going to make much of a difference. My bigger concern is who they've got. I think they're making the wrong decisions with who they're signing up for contracts. So they're signing up players. I think they should be either thinking, all right, I give Hawthorn a lot of stick. And I think Sam Mitchell, I've given him a bit of stick. But what Hawthorn have done is what West Coast should be doing. West Coast should be going, who can we get some currency for and get them out and get picks in and try and rejuvenate it? Because you look at that team, I know they won a flag in 2018. They are a shell of their former selves. What can they get for some of those players running around? Can they get something for Petruccelli? Can they get something for Sheed? Can they get something for Yo? Yeah. Can they get something for Gaff? No, Gaff I think would be a bit too old. They're not going to get anything for Nick Nat. They're not going to get anything maybe for McGovern, but there's a few players there that I think that they should move on, because I must admit that they haven't been winning, but there have been some sides, you can see a bit of a flicker at times. And when they've had the chain release, they haven't been too bad. They just don't have the cattle on the pack. The fitness perspective and the football fitness group is what I'd be looking at. Because this has been going on for 3 years that they've been for 3 years. And that's where my concern is, because COVID's one thing, But COVID was last year. This is completely different. Why is everyone got so injured? Why is it an age perspective? Is it that they're pushing them too much? Is it the travel factor? I don't know, but I think a serious insight needs to be made into what is going wrong, because it hasn't worked for, like I said, 3 years. I don't think he's in trouble, because you're going to have to get somebody who's going to do the rebuild. Now, if he wants to be there, keep him.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't want to be there, but once again, if they bring in a new coach and nothing happens for the next 2 years, are you going to be looking for a new coach again?
Exactly.
Because we are a very knee-jerk. That market over there would be brutal, absolutely brutal. Craig Jones, magnificent broadcast. He said Tim Kelly screwed West Coast.
Spot on. Yeah, Jones is correct there. Yeah. He's been a major disappointment, considering everyone was talking about how much of an influence he's going to be for the West Coast. I mean, he did play some good footy with the Cats and was up there in the Brownlow one year, but yeah, he's been extremely disappointing for West Coast, and Jones is spot on.
I think the thing also with Tim Kelly, and I think it might have a bit to do with him, but he was surrounded by a cracking group of midfield. Like he had Dangerfield, he had Selwood, he had Duncan, he had
Gaz.
He had Menengola running around with him as well too,
and Gary Ablett,
probably Gazza for a couple of years as well. Yeah. He was supported. He had a good midfield around him. Went to West Coast. Yeah, I know he had Gaff, Sheedy, etc., but they haven't been consistent. And so it puts all the pressure on you. He might be just one of those people that, if the pressure's on, doesn't handle it that well. We know there's players who thrive and there's players that don't survive. And he might be, but here's a classic just to sort of put things in perspective. If I look at West Coast right now, when it comes to high rankings, they're ranked 5th for opposition clangers per game. They're ranked 1st for opponent rebound 50s per game. And they're ranked 2nd in team-to-opponent rebound 50s per game differential. That is it. Everything is low, such as 18th for kicks, 14th for the disposals, 18th for points, 15th for hit-outs. They're not getting the ball. 18th for inside 50s. They don't get it. They can't kick it. They can't move it. And everybody does it against them. So no matter what they do, they are just putrid across the park. Nothing could be done to save them this year. And don't get me started. If they ask for a priority pick, no. Because if Port couldn't get one, if Melbourne couldn't get one, if North couldn't get one, if Gold Coast couldn't get one, and Hawthorn haven't got one over the last, there's 5 teams there that never got priority picks. I'm talking like right at the top first round pick. They shouldn't get one because they only lost a flag, or they won a flag 6 years ago.
Yeah. You've got to go. Yeah. No, Peps, I totally agree with you. I think if anyone should be under pressure, it should be their recruiting managers. Like you look at, sorry to keep talking about Port all the time, but you look at Port's recruiting, I think they're one of the absolute benchmarks. They've made some pretty big calls. They traded out Wingard, Doogie Howard, obviously back in the day, Jasper Pittard, as well as, his name escapes me, Joe Polak, he went to the Roos. They made some big calls, but look at the players they've been able to get out of it. And remember when Ryan Burton came to Port as well as Dersma for Wingard, and people were like, that's pretty crazy getting rid of Wingard. Well, what's he done at Hawthorn? Absolute bugger all. And Port's now got one of the best young players going around in Dersma, and Burton's been more than serviceable. So I think they've done a remarkable job, our recruiters.
I think there's some recruiting teams that look at it and go, these are the type of players. I think Hawthorn have done it, over the last couple of years, and they'll do it again this year, where they've moved a couple of those older players on and brought in draft picks, because they know with the Tasmanian team coming in a few years as well too, it's going to be difficult to stock up on those young talent. Melbourne have done it over the last number of years, and they're going to do it again this year as well. I think they've got 4 picks at the moment, 4 picks in the top 25, 26 picks. So they're going to be looking all right because they've moved players on, and they'll do it again. They'll find a couple and go, listen, you're going to get a better opportunity somewhere else, take it. And they'll benefit from that, and then they'll use those picks for other things as well. So, I reckon Essendon have actually done it pretty well over the last couple of years as well. They've really nailed pre-season drafts, SSP drafts as well. And you get...
I was just going to say, mate, like Luke Jackson, there's a lot of talk about him going, and I think bringing Grundy in, you've got a ready-made replacement there for Jackson, and he's been okay at Freo, but I don't think you've really missed him this year, have you?
I'd say we've missed him. What he does around the ground is a little bit different. Like he almost plays like a knick-knack type of role. But he and Gawn worked really well. And I think if he was a solo ruckman, so I've watched him play solo games as their only ruckman, and he's dominated. When he's played games with somebody else, with Darcy, it just hasn't worked all that. And that's why there's been a bit of talk of Darcy going to Geelong, but I can't see them paying him $1 million a year. They won't do that down at Geelong. So I think we can also remember he's only 21, 22 years of age. He's already played in the flag. He's got so much upside. Give it another couple of years and we'll be sitting back going, hey, remember episode insert number here, Bevo, when we chatted about Luke Jackson? We're looking like fools. I think he's got plenty of upside as well too.
But having said that, though, you'll get some good picks out of it.
We got three. We got first rounder this year, and we got their first rounder this year. One second rounder this year, and we got one last year. So we were positioned quite nicely for it as well too. So it's looking all right. Hey, I want to let you know of this week's rising star is Darcy Wilmot from the Brisbane Lions. Now, if everybody remembers, this guy played his first game in the elimination final last year, Brisbane's elimination final. The one against Richmond, it was Richmond, wasn't it? Yeah, it went wide, I think it was.
What a game that was.
It was an absolute corker. Did it hit the post or not? Magic bullet. We'll never know. But he's got the round 14 nomination. He's played every game this year. He's averaging 13 and a half disposals a game. He's just slotted into that back line absolutely nicely. Him and Freo, I just love what they're doing down back. And I think Brisbane, I still think they're very susceptible. I don't know. Still don't trust them wholeheartedly outside of Melbourne. We saw that a couple of weeks ago. Their future in a couple of their, I'd say maybe third tier players, they've got some crackers there, and he's one of them. So, Darcy Wilmot, congratulations as well.
Yeah, congrats to him. And hey, what about young Fletcher on the weekend? Wasn't he?
Well, see, here's the thing, right? I don't mind the father-son. I want to throw this out to the listeners right now, listening live, listening on the podcast. Father-sons. Should we keep father-sons? Here's the reason why. I'm a Melbourne supporter. We've had no father-sons except for one in the last, I reckon, 10 years, which is Shane Woden's son. That's it. Where Geelong have absolutely nailed it. Brisbane have absolutely nailed it. All these other clubs have absolutely ripped it over the last number of years, and I'm struggling to get one. But I think we're picking up in the next couple of years. But so I get a little bit jealous when I see these kids. Basically, you're getting champagne results on a beer budget, and it absolutely shites me when they do that. But hey, he looks like an absolute corker as well too. That's what I mean. They get Ashcroft and they get Fletcher in. Tell you what, as Khalees said, it brings the milkshakes to the yard because they are two absolute corkers of kids. Hey, Journey to the Draft. If you don't know about Journey to the Draft, Bevo, we're following one player on his way to the draft. Now, his name's Jacob Grant. He's plays for the Dandenong Stingrays, and he's been picked Vic Country this year. There was an emergency on the weekend, but I think you already knew about that. They want to get him on a bigger ground. He's a leading forward. He's wiry. He's electric. He's raw. He's going to get his chance against WA at the Wacker on June 30. So we've got our fingers crossed for the big fella. He's an absolute superstar of a kid, and if he impresses in the last couple of games for Vic Country, the journey of the draft is going to be getting better and better. We might even have to broadcast live on draft night. That's how big it's going to get. So we're really
we'll keep an eye out for him, mate.
Oh, we're hanging for him big time. All right, now Bevo, we're going to spin some magnets. All right, now I'm not too sure if you know about spinning the magnets, but we're either going to be giving the 3 votes or we're going to drag someone. What would you like to start with?
I reckon, I didn't like being dragged when I played footy, but give that a go.
Give that one a go? Okay, well, we'll get Ron on board.
Healy off, Ellingworth on. Bloody weak as piss.
All right, so the great Ron Barassi dragging Jared Healy, early 80s. Now, first thing I have to point out is this, Gold Coast. Please, Bevo. Gold Coast, you kill me. You're my third team. Love Gold Coast. Everything about you. And just when you think they've reached the pinnacle. Like, you are finals bound. And you know in the finals bound because the great Tommy Roker, who's the Gold Coast, like Yoda, comes on and goes, cricket's on, footy's over. See you later, boys. You know, Gold Coast, gee, they were putrid. At quarter time, I thought, here we go. They're going to win this one, get themselves set up for a final spot because they've got a pretty good draw. Well, I mentioned on the Thursday night, you mentioned it a little bit earlier too, Bevo, that Port Adelaide went a bit Miley Cyrus, but instead of her being on the wrecking ball, it was Butters, Rosie, Wines, Boat, Dixon. Came in swinging like a wrecking ball. Well, Carlton came on swinging like a wrecking ball. For the first time, I reckon in 12 months, they actually did something that got their supporters excited. They kicked 9 unanswered goals, I think, in a quarter. And I looked at the score and I went, what is going on? Like, okay, it's going to happen, but at least happen against Carlton. That Gold Coast, frustrating. They are the worst team. I don't know what it's like over there in South Australia, Bevo, but
well, it's interesting you asked that, Peps. On our same show that I was talking about before, we actually had Kate Hazler, who's the Gold Coast defensive coach.
Yep.
I used to be involved with the Adelaide Crows as well. We had him on our show tonight, and I asked the same question. I said, that must frustrate you because you have a really good win against the Dogs and a win against the Crows, both in Darwin, and then you're, like you just mentioned before, ready again to play some finals for the very first time. And we've heard it so many times before, haven't we, where everyone starts talking up the Suns like, this is going to be the year, and then once again, they just disappoint you. And I asked Tate the same question. He said, well, looking at the game, we did have a really good first quarter, like you just mentioned, and then the Blues had just been copying it left, right and centre, and they knew that they were going to come, but they just couldn't stop them. And that's what his answer was, pretty much along those lines. And you're right, though. The Suns, they did let another opportunity slip, but they have got the Hawks this week, so it's a winnable game. And, they're still around the mark. You showed the ladder before. They're still a finals chance, but they've got to start winning some of these games.
If they don't start winning these games shortly, I like Stewie Jew. I just like him.
So do I.
Anybody doesn't like Stewie Jew, get on YouTube and go back to the 2008 grand final and just watch 5 minutes of highlights and you'll love the bloke. Absolutely blows my mind every time I watch that. But there's not much like when you got someone like Hardwick sitting by at the wings who might want to take a job up there, like I reckon he'd be perfect for them. And there was just a piece of footage, and I know one of them was Mac Andrew, and I think the other one was either Lukosius or Anderson. I'm picking probably Anderson. And the ball rolled into Carlton's goal square, and they both looked at it, and then I think it might have been Owies just came in and kicked it off the ground, and they were literally saying, "Are you going to pick it up, or are you going to pick it up?" And they just strolled in behind him and kicked. And I was, we heard of coach killers. That would make you want to just go, "I'm done. I'm done." Mel Meninga, I'm done. No, I'm done. I'm done because it was awful. All right. Also dragging. I have to drag these stupid buys. 1 week we've got 8 rounds. 1 week we've got 8 rounds. I said a number of weeks ago, just have one game, have 1 week, everybody gets the buy, and then get back into it again.
Yeah. I said the same thing tonight as well, Peps.
I don't even need a buy. Just have people to take their own time. They don't need a buy.
No.
Cool.
I'm with you. This whole split round is just garbage.
It's poo. Absolute poo. So AFL, Andrew Dillon, get your buys together. And look, a non-football related one, but I have to go with the cricket here. Look, it's a cracking game at the moment. The first test is on. We haven't got a score update, but we'll get one for you by the end of the episode. But Ollie Robinson, who are you? You're a knob.
Yes.
Like, Kawasa has batted for a day and a bit. He's gone out and made close to 150, faced over 300 deliveries, and you've bowled in. Who are you, Ollie Robinson? Like, you sound like a character out of a children's book, let alone an opening bowler. No, I'm sorry.
Let me just say something, Peps.
You're a knob. You can say you're a knob.
He's now going to make himself. You remember back in the day when Stuart Broad, no one in Australia liked Stuart Broad, and whenever he came to Australia, he copped it. You know what? Ollie Robinson's now going to be the next Stuart Broad, and everyone's going to absolutely bag the crap out of him because of that. And you know what? The rest of this series, it's actually a good thing because it's really going to make this series quite fiery, which I like.
And even better, I'm going to throw Stuart Broad's crappy white headband in there as well, because that looks shithouse, let's be honest. All right. Hey, it's time to give some of these.
3 votes.
All right, 3 votes. We're going to be giving, right, first and foremost, Seagulls at the MCG. Now, I don't know what it's like over there at Port Adelaide, the Adelaide Oval, but I miss Seagulls at the MCG. I'm not too sure I've been to the G recently, but they've got these cables across. They've got these fake birds to try and keep the seagulls away. But it was a wet and blustery night on Saturday night. It was great to see seagulls lining the outer wing. And we talk about the orange tsunami. Well, we're talking about the white wave of seagulls flying across. And do you know what? They would have been having an absolute picnic on all those chips and hot dogs that were left in the stands, because it was just, that was what footy. If the centre wicket was mud, it was taking me back to the days at the MCG in the mid-'80s. Like, that was perfect. It was just seagulls everywhere. I loved it. Now, not a big fan of this guy, but I've got to give credit where credit is due. Trent Cotchin, 300 games. He's a 3-time premiership captain, All-Australian, best and fairest winner. Western supporters will say he stole the Brownlow. But, it takes a special individual to play 300 games. I'm one of them, so I'd know. But that's an amazing effort. And I reckon it was one of the best games he's played in probably 12 months as well, too. I don't know if you saw much of the game, but he was everywhere, kicked 2 absolute corkers. Good on him. And some of the scenes with his family, they do social media pretty well. They're driving the car through the banner and all the kids on the shoulders coming off the ground. That's meat in my book. I finished playing footy before my kids were old enough to do all that sort of stuff. So I wish they could run out with me. So good on you, Coach. Congratulations. And I reckon this might be his last season. And he's going to go out saying it was one of the best games he played. So,
yeah, no, that was a ripper. Interesting, isn't it, the Tigers? Ever since McCalder's taken over, they were very close to getting before. Could have easily won that game. And then they've now won 3 in a row. Are they a finals chance, you think, Peps?
Oh, nah. I tipped them not to make finals. I did. But the way that they've sort of got their stuff together over the last few weeks, they're coming home with the run. They've still got Lynch to come back as well. Can it be sustainable? I don't know. They're probably playing on a bit of emotion at the moment. Hey, awesome. Good on them. I'm not yet sold, though. I'm not yet sold because there's a lot of teams around that sort of view at the moment. And their percentage is 102. So they're 6 points behind the Western Bulldogs. They're probably a game and a half of percentage behind as well. So it's not about, they have to get wins, but they're going to have to start getting some wins with margins. And I don't know where they're going to come from. So that's going to be interesting. Now, do you have a favourite band, Bevo? Do you have a band that you like to listen to? Like when you're in the zone, you just like to throw on the old transistor and bout out a few.
Back in the day, I had to say Blink-182, but nowadays I've got to say the Footies, I reckon, Chris.
You can say the Footies, you can say Blink. You know what? I love a bit of Iron Maiden. I love the Hanger. I love Hanger 18 is one of the best songs. Just absolutely love what they do. But it was Hanger on the weekend. It was Hanger 14, Hanger round 14. Max King took an absolute pearler. Fifey took a pearler. And the smiling midget down there in the forward line for the Western Bulldogs, Cody Waitman. Oh, nice. I love a good hanger. I know they're all worried about the head contact, etc. But when you see a player stick the foot and the stud straight in the back and they get up, it's everything that we dreamed that we could still do because we've got no chance of that occurring whatsoever. But
I used to have the nickname Bevelenko back in the day.
Everybody was an Alenko, wasn't it? It was a Bevelenko. Everybody. I was Pepperama. But I know Jules Julio was Julienko when I used to work with him, and Lee Ali, he was just Fang. But there was a lot of people who put first surname Alenko in there. It just happened.
Yeah, I used to love going for a hanger, mate, back in the day. So
Love going for them. Didn't take many either. Oh, by the way, did you know that this happened as well?
Bags, bags, bags. We love it when they kick 'em. Bags, bags, bags. It's got to be 6 or more.
Well, it's got to be 6 or more for a bag because, 5 goals is a handful. I don't care. Is it the same for you? A bag has to be 6?
I think it's more 5 or more.
It's a handful is 5. 6, you need a bag. Anyway, we love bags of snags. Katie Waitman, smallest player on the ground on the weekend. kicked a beautiful 6 goals against North Melbourne, and some of those, don't know how many were dodgy frees when he was, flopping around everywhere, but good on him, kicking 6 bags. So that's what we like to see, like a beat of bags. And that, my friends, was spin the magnets for round 14. Rightio. Before we have a look at the games, a couple of quick things. Now, around the grounds, what we like to do, Bevo, a couple of things I want to quickly announce, some announcements that have happened in the last couple of days. We know today that the Gather Round, and you can tell us a little bit about this because tell us what it was like over there in LA, but Gather Round, round 4 next year, running from Thursday, April 4th, to Sunday, April 7th. How big was Gather Round over in the capital city of Adelaide this year?
Yeah, it was unbelievable, Peps, to be honest. I was there on the Saturday afternoon, and to see 2 games back-to-back, I was there for the Melbourne and also the Bombers clash. And sorry to remind you of that one, mate.
I told you not to bring that up.
Yeah, no, that was a really good contest. And yeah, I actually spoke to Jeff, my co-host, earlier on about this. And interesting, like, I don't think I've ever been to a game of footy where every single, like, I saw basically merchandise from every single team in the AFL because people had been, to the game up at the Adelaide Hills. So they came down that weekend and they had the Lions and the Kangaroos. And
I got me Gather Round scarf from somebody.
Yeah, beautifully done. And then I stayed around and watched, obviously, Port and the Dogs as well. And I thought, this is just absolutely magnificent because even though I live in Adelaide, mate, I've been over to Melbourne many times and done the old 3 or 4 games in a weekend with your mates and absolutely love doing that. And it kind of had that feel about it, but it was actually in Adelaide where, you're seeing all these games on a weekend. It was just wonderful to see. And I think we had over 200,000 people from interstate, great for the economy. And Adelaide was an absolute buzz. And in the past, we've copped it for being a bit of a nanny state. But I tell you what, it was live and well. And we're never going to be like Melbourne. But I tell you what, Adelaide's certainly doing really good things. We had the Live Golf.
Did you go to Live Golf as well?
I couldn't get a bloody ticket, mate. So, yeah. Yeah, so
Live was massive. Like a lot of golfing mates, and we were like, live. We want to go. So
yeah.
But now that everything's sort of, we don't know what's going on with that as well. But Gather Round was nuts. My brother loved Adelaide Oval. He said the size of the chips that you get at the Adelaide Oval is massive, and the beers that they have is actually sensational. So it makes the MCG.
You'll have to come over next year, Peps.
Me and J-Dog have to go over for a Port Adelaide Melbourne game. He reckons it's going to be awesome. One other thing I want to bring up is, and this sort of came out a little bit nowhere, Craigie Jones also mentioned on the chat, but Essendon are looking at changing their logo. Now, they've been going since 1997 with their logo. Now, not to say they're going to be changing the name, but they want to change the logo. They're putting a bit of research into it and seeing I don't know why, because that's the last thing that they need to do because they're playing all right. The logo looks okay. I don't understand why they would do something like this now. Why wouldn't you do it in the off-season, etc.? Just it seems really weird that if you look at Essendon's logo, it's not bad. Like I don't mind it. But maybe it's it's not a new thing. They've almost had the logo almost as long as since they've won a final as well. It's really Craigie Jones reckons they should change it to a noodle. I don't know. Maybe they should change it to one hand of Cochin and the other one of who won it as well? Cochin and Mitchell with a hand, and there's his face, and they got a hand on the medal, taking it off him. Maybe that could be. And I wanted to really quickly go the coaches' votes because this is something that we haven't sort of touched on. But since these bye rounds have kicked in, I want to highlight 2 players, and I call him Marge, and I've got it wrong last couple of weeks. But Marge, aka Zach Butters. He got more votes again on the weekend. He is just dominating. Like his last 10 weeks of footy have been probably one of the best streaks that I've seen in my lifetime, I must admit. But Tim Taranto, apparently not in the best 150 players, according to Kane Corns, is killing it as well too. And I think he's something like 4th in the Brownlow voting as well too, just what he's been doing over the last number of weeks too. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so you got Butters on 76, Dacos and Petrarca on 63, 62, Taranto on 62 as well. The Bont, he's had a few quiet weeks, came back with a vengeance on the weekend with 9. And my love child, I love this guy, and we're getting into him very shortly, Toby Green. He's just best. he's going to go down as one of the best small forwards ever if he continues at this rate. I've got Milne, number 1, Cyril Rioli 2, Toby Green. Ooh, he hasn't got flags.
But they very rarely lose with him in the side. And whenever he doesn't play, they're just a different team, aren't they, Peps?
Yeah, I don't understand. He never plays a bad game. He's a small forward, and he's going to kick you 2 or 3 minimum a week, and absolutely love him.
Absolutely.
Guess what it's time for, Bev? It's time for the scoreboard. All right, let's have a look at the game. Bevo's sitting back right now. Look at his face going, what did I get myself into tonight? Should have said the hotspot wasn't working. All right, quick wrap-up of the games on the weekend. We spoke about it really quickly. Thursday night, Port Adelaide versus Geelong. Geelong had Port on toast pretty much early into that game. You can tell us a little bit more about that because obviously you're a Port guy, but that quarter of football that they played, I think it was the third quarter where they came out after halftime and just went, bang. I think at one stage you were at 28 possessions to 4 and you'd kick 3 goals in that time frame as well too. It reminded me a lot of the prelim against Geelong where Melbourne just went bang, bang, bang and smashed them very quickly. You were just on fire. And the other hyphen, not Darcy Byrne, we're talking about Pal Pepper. He's your most important player.
Yeah.
Don't worry about Butters and Rosie and all those flakies. Pal Pepper, when he plays well, your team plays well. And
I agree.
I would say he's All-Australian, at least squad this year because his season this year has been magnificent.
I was talking to a friend of mine on the weekend and I reckon Peps is a dark horse to win the Best and Fairest this year, his first ever. He's been absolutely sensational. And you're right, he's just a wrecking ball. You kicked a couple of goals, 2 ripping goals on the weekend. Had 13 seconds.
Which one did you like more, the boundary or the fend off, hold my hand, do-si-do?
Both a dead heat, I reckon. They were both sensational goals, weren't they? Could easily be goals of the year. Like they were just.
The first one will be more goal of the year, but the second one was just brute.
Oh, Bruce.
He had got better. There was a stage I was worrying about him going, well, what's he stand for? What's his go? But he was amazing. And also another guy I've got more respect for this year's Dan Houston. I was talking about those third-tier players you don't hear much about over here in Melbourne. Like, he gets mentioned, but, when you've got, like I've mentioned to you so many times, Butters and Rosie and these guys, like, you're not going to get spoken about, but he's just one of those quiet achievers that just does his role week in, week out. He was dominant on the weekend. He had 571 metres gained at 83%, 6 clearances, 7 marks, 9 contested possessions, and I'll just throw in 5 inside 50s.
Yeah, it was great. But there's a couple of guys as well I want to talk about. I touched about it at the start of the show with you, Peps, there as well, and that was DBJ with those 9 score involvements. But a couple of other guys that I want to talk about as well. Willem Drew, 8 clearance on the weekend. He's one player who's absolutely improved out of sight. Back in the day, he couldn't get a regular game with the Power, but I'm so glad that he's part of their side now because he's fantastic. Very rarely plays a bad game. And another one I thought his career was over because they were playing him up forward. They're turned into a backman now. And he's now keeping our skipper Tom Jonas out, and that's Dylan Williams.
I just sit back and go, the mark of a good team is when you start seeing players contributing that you didn't know existed.
Exactly.
And the way that you're playing at the moment, I know he's a Brownlow medalist, but Ollie Wines, let's be honest, last year was probably not his best year.
Yeah.
Now, on the weekend, I just want to put this in perspective. He had 28 touches. He had 15 contested possessions, but only had 285 in terms of
meters
gained. But 18 of those were handballs. So I would say he's had 15 contested possessions. You'd say, I reckon, 15 of those would have been close to handballs. So what he's doing is he's just getting it out. Getting it out and letting your Butters, letting your Rosies, letting Todd Marshall. Like Todd Marshall, it just shows how much he's keeping Georgiades out of the team at the moment as well too. Like we've got Finlayson down there, you've got Dixon down there, and you've also got Marshall, Finlayson, and Dixon, those three. Like, that's three forwards that, and don't forget Willie Rioli. Oh, and don't forget, who else can I forget about? Like, he's gone. Don't worry about him. Like, it's just.
And Ollie Lord was really good, but he can't get a game yet.
Come out of nowhere. So Port, 11 in a row. And like I said, you were in trouble at one stage. You really were in trouble. But they just came out and just dominated it across the park. And it was awesome to see. It's easy to keep a player out of a team who's out for the year. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he's still out, Craig. Like, still out. He's keeping another player out.
I was too nice. I didn't comment on that one.
No, you're brutal. Like I said, I don't know everything. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story in your piece. But you're doing everything. You're doing everything right at the moment. My only concern, and everybody's going to say it: have you peaked too early?
Yeah,
that's my only concern. That's my only concern. But if you do this. There's still what are we, round 15? There's still another 8 rounds to go.
Yeah.
8 games to go. And then you've potentially got 3 finals. You've got to do what you've done again to win 22 in a row.
Yeah.
You're playing good footy.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not confident against the Bombers, though. They're fast and playing really good footy at the moment. So if we were going to drop one, we'll miss by.
Where is it? Yeah, is it at Marvel or is
it
MCG? Ooh, see, no, I reckon you're a massive chance. I reckon you're a massive chance at the G. I reckon you're a big chance there. Do you know who was a big chance at Gabba on the weekend? That was the Brisbane Lions. Let's be honest, it was a pretty boring game, this one, for the first half. And then it didn't get much better. But
I turned it over to the cricket.
One of those games was a 16-point win. Cricket's on. Watch the cricket.
Yeah.
But best on ground, Zach Bailey. I think that's the thing about Brisbane, their midfield goes pretty deep. I still think they're a bit thin. If Danaher and Hipwood don't fire, I think they're a bit thin. And down back, if Harris Andrews has a bit of a shocker, they can be gotten out the back a little bit. But their midfield did everything right, and Zach Bailey dominated. Kicked 3 on the weekend, close to 700 metres gained. Chucking 3 clearances as well too, 7 inside 50s. He was everywhere. You couldn't ask for a better game. We spoke about Lachie Neale and what he can do, but Will Ashcroft, awesome. Dunkley, awesome. I was really disappointed by Sydney. I know that they came back after a while, but I feel Sydney are in no man's land at the moment.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. Are they just waiting for the end of the season?
Well, they didn't have Buddy as well, and I know he's coming to the end of his career, but still, he made such a big difference to that side, and especially with a young guy like Amadi, having Buddy in the side really helps him as well. So.
Yeah, I'm almost the opposite. I think Buddy is actually, you got a guy like Hayden McLean who can clunk a mark, but Buddy's in his way, and they get too Buddy-centric. They need to make a call and say, all right, this is it. You're not playing anymore. Let's start counting this down. I know there's been other players that have done that over the years, and it's worked really well. But they have to start giving these guys opportunities because Buddy's not going to take you to the next flag. You're not going to get much more out of him. Like, we've squeezed him dry.
Yeah.
Games left. Getting to play a game in Melbourne. Getting to play, come and say his last game in Melbourne. This will be his last game in wherever it might be, and just sort of go a little bit that way and go out on a high because you want to see the champions go out on a high, but they're not doing it at the moment. And their backline's getting, without those 2 big boys, McCartan, Tom and Paddy, they just get exposed too easily.
Yeah.
It's pretty ugly. Even if you look at the coaches' votes, the only one that got votes was Harry Cunningham.
Yeah. He kept Charlie Cameron very quiet, didn't he? He kept him goalless. Yeah,
he kept Cameron to nothing too. So Brisbane got the job done. They were expected to get the job done. Was it pretty? Nah. Did they get the job done? Yeah. Here's a team that were pretty, and they were pretty exciting. The Giants. Did you see much of this game?
I didn't, mate, because I was hosting pub trivia a trivia event, that night at a footy club, so I didn't get to see it. I was listening to it on the radio, though, on the way up there, and, I was just really surprised by that result. We were talking before about Freo being disappointing, but, I think – sorry, you can hear my baby playing in the background. Sorry about that, guys.
Even she thinks that Sydney sucks too. So,
sorry about that. I didn't realise I could hear that.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. We're not biased. Bring your kids.
The joys of live television.
Joys of live television.
Yeah, I think. Now I've just lost track of what I was saying there. The Giants. Yeah, that was a really good win, and I didn't see them winning by that much. And they're an interesting team this year, the Giants, aren't they? I think Adam Kingsley's got them playing some good footy, and they've got a really good coach there. They'll be playing some finals in the next few years. Maybe not this year, but definitely in 2024, I reckon.
If you said to say who was the most improved team, I'm not going to put Port Adelaide into that figure right now, but you'd say probably Essendon and GWS. But I'd almost go GWS for the simple fact that if they haven't won as many games, they've either, outside of this result on the weekend, they hadn't lost by more than 4 goals, I believe. And they won by more than 4 goals. So it was a pretty even type of mix. And that was something that we thought GWS wouldn't do. They'd invested too much in their top end. But, Cornelio seems to have got a bit more life about him. Josh Kelly gets back to himself, and I don't think he gets the kudos that he should get. I still think he's a little bit overrated.
Yeah.
Because we don't see enough of him. But he was damaging, 33 disposals, 3 goals. Jake Riccardi, last year he burst onto the scene. Last year he was a little bit flattish. He's come out and kicked another 5, so he's had some good weeks. Toby Green kicked another 4 as well too.
Jesse Hogan's good, isn't he, as well? He's doing some good things.
Mate, I'm shattered when he left Melbourne, but I understand why. But I just want to see him play well. But out of all of that, the one guy that funny enough, I get excited to watch is their big guy. Got to get his name. Kieran Briggs.
Oh, yes.
Look, is he just a big? They call him Baby Money. Baby Money.
I was going to say he's a bit like Mumford, isn't he?
Baby Money, they call him. But he went. He had 28. He had 28 hit outs. He's had 6 tackles, 5 clearances at a big guy. 13 going at 69%. Well, big guys don't go all that well. But he's they reckon he might get a Brownlow vote out of that game as well too. But he's everything. He's just hard on his sleeve type of player, and that's what Mumford was.
Exactly.
And that's what Bruce was. And GWS have that type of, but they just play beautifully. But I picked this. I reckon I picked it when I did Tipped Out late last week. I said that Fremantle will struggle with the distance because it's from one side of the country to the other. They're playing away, and it showed. But a 70-point, no one saw that. And the thing is, there was only 17 inside 50s difference.
Wow. That's staggering, isn't it?
Actually, that's wrong. It's 24. I can't add up. 24 different. That's 4 a quarter, 6 quarter. So I can't add.
I just want to ask you, Peps, on the Giants, just with the way that Jeremy Finlayson's going with the power this year, a chance to be an All-Australian squad member, do you feel as though they'd be a bit disappointed now that they let him go?
No, I don't think so. What did they get for him? Craigie Jones would know. You'd have to have a look.
A packet of chips, really.
Everybody's like that. So I can only refer to Melbourne. Melbourne picked up Lockie Hunter for a 3rd-round pick. We're happy with that.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things. I think they might have got a 2nd rounder or something, a 2nd rounder or a future 2nd. No, I think that in that situation, that's okay. Yeah, 2nd rounder, I think, as well, too. So I have no issue with it. We got to make these decisions. You make the decisions, they're done. You can't look back and go, shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't. Could West Coast go back and think about what happened with Tim Kelly?
Yeah, true.
What I mean? So you can't think about that. But Fremantle, Jesus, just when you think that they're going to take a step, they get Jackson in. They're going 4-cylinder. They're a V8 going on a 4-cylinders, if that, at the moment. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. They're disappointing.
I don't think Lemieux's in trouble because he took him to finals last year, but gee whiz, if they're rubbish next year, then he'll be in a bit of trouble, I reckon.
Yeah, but once again, who's going to take him over? Find somebody who wants to go and work in that. I don't know. The coach has a bit to do with it, but he sort of sets what the game plans and so forth are going to be, but there could be a number of factors there as well too. So
100%.
How good was this? Richmond. Talk about Koch's 300th. It was actually a really good game, this. except for when the rain came down. I thought, oh, St Kilda got this one in the bag, and then Richmond came out and absolutely blew me away with what they did.
Richmond played really well in the wet. That's 2 weeks in a row now, Peps, where they've won games in the wet. Remember they played Freo and it was absolutely bucketing down.
Yep.
So, yeah, Richmond, they must just train with the sprinklers on all the time.
No, you know what it is? It's simple. Under 10s football. They play under 10s football. Just keep the ball moving, keep moving it forward. On nights like that, don't get fancy, just keep it moving. And that kick, that flick, that's all that they do. And they just move it forward. That's all you have to do. And unfortunately, teams get a little bit too handball happy. They're not like that. They just boot it long, get the territory, and move it. They were sensational. Tim Taranto, he's one of the best wet weather footballers going around. Oh. He's got the size about him too, which was good. Dusty played his best game, I think, in a long time as well. Like it was a Dusty of old, where he was there was a couple of passes that he did with just like bullet light with nobody should be able to do with a wet weather ball at all. Koch, like I said, best game he's played in a long time. Jack Sinclair is the only option for St Kilda. I thought that they had them on toast at quarter time when they jumped out to that really good start. Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, that's really disappointing for St Kilda because they could almost do what they did last year, 8-3 going into the bye and then completely fell over.
Yeah,
they're looking like they're going to be doing something similar because that is a pretty taxing game style that they play. But even like you have a look at some of their gun players, like Steele had 21, Gresham had 16, Winhager had 20, Wilkie, he hasn't been himself over the last few weeks. He only had 17. Yeah, there's a couple of questions. I think they've just lost a bit of their mojo, and Richmond, I think that's 3 in a row now, and they've started to get a bit of spunk back, and maybe going to look – if they make finals, they're going to be one of those teams that people are going to be looking over their shoulder going, oh.
100%. Yeah.
They could do anything, especially if they go Koch is retiring, they'll be playing their absolute guts out. Same with Jack if he decides to pull the pin as well.
Yeah, agree.
They're doing all right. Now, 2 more games to go. We're going to go through them pretty quickly because this is the one no one saw coming. I didn't pick them. They had no right to win, no right to even do what they did. And we're talking about the Carlton Blows versus the Gold Coast Suns. Did you see that happening?
No, to be honest, like with the way the Suns have been playing before that game and obviously beat really good sides in the Dogs and the Crows, I thought, yeah, this is a chance for the Suns to prove they're going to be a finals contender this year. But because the Blues have been so disappointing, haven't they, Peps?
9 points. They kicked 9 unanswered. They brought their own wrecking ball. They took it from Port, shipped it on the V line, and they went nuts. It was. That's the old flick the phone to go, my phone broke when the score came up because no one saw that coming. I was even with a guy last week, and I mentioned this on the podcast last week. I got a guy who's a 25-year Carlton member. I said, I don't even go to the games anymore because they're just going to disappoint me.
Wow.
Imagine if he didn't turn up on the weekend. He would have probably, after the first quarter, gone, here we go again. But they were awesome. Gold Coast just disappointing. Considering they're the number 1 contested ball team in the league, they didn't show up, and that's what I mean. They go bit of Paula Abdul, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Where are they? They're nowhere. They're sitting. Oh, it's frustrating. I wish you had Tommy Roker.
You feel really sorry for Stewie Jew, don't you?
I do because you saw what they did against Adelaide. You saw what they did against Geelong.
The Bulldogs,
and the Bulldogs, and then they serve that up. Boggles the mind because Carlton, that's probably put them back into finals contention.
I know.
They could have knocked Carlton out of the finals and you could have started planning holidays towards the end of the year, but they didn't. Chera best game probably for the year. Patrick Cripps. So, the players that haven't been doing anything. Cripps fired. Chera fired. Doherty had a couple of goals as well too. Cripps kicked 3. That was the old Cripps. That was Brownlow Cripps when he was hitting 20, 30, kicking goals as well. He did that for the first time in a long time. 11 score involvements. Sam Walsh had 11 score involvements. So everything just clicked for them. And for the Gold Coast, it was pretty much
emotional damage.
It was emotional damage for Stewie Jew and for all of them. yeah, really disappointing stuff, Bevo. I was shattered for that result.
Yeah, likewise.
I must admit, though, this team, even though they're getting beaten every week, North Melbourne,
Oh,
they lost to the Western Bulldogs. See, and this is what I mean. Like, that is a team. They get two players in, Wardlow. They get the Warlord, as they call him, and the Cheezel.
and the Cheezel, yeah.
Comes in as well too, and they're having a crack. It's almost like we can breathe again.
I know.
And for a long
Hasn't
time,
Taron Thomas been good as well since he's come back?
reality check. Like I think the last few weeks he's picked up coaches' votes in the last couple of weeks as well. Picked up 2 on the weekend.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that he's been a dick off the field, but it really goes to show this guy can play footy.
He can.
He can play footy, and we've got to let him play footy and get around him and say, mate, you don't throw your career away. Like you're a top 10 draft pick. Or first round draft pick, don't throw it away. Too many people have done it. And we could reel them off if we want to.
Yeah.
But he was awesome. The Cheezel is again going to go, but we spoke about Waitman's, like Katie Waitman had 13 disposals, kicked 6. But the Bont, 32, kicked 3. Like he's been a bit lowly the last couple of weeks. It was good to see him back. Do you rate the doggies?
Yeah, they're another one that they're hard to get a read on, aren't they? They took it right up to Port the other week, and once again, Port were really good in that final term, running over them up there at Marvel. But yeah, on their day they can be pretty dangerous. They're very fast, but yeah, I don't know. There's something going on with their forward line. They played Norton down back on the weekends. Rory Lobb hasn't done really anywhere near as much as they were hoping for as their new recruit this year. He's on a lot of money, isn't he? So, there's a few issues down there at Doggyland. I don't know about them. What do you think, Peps?
There's you can't fit 4. You can't fit Ugelhagen, Lobb, Bruce, Norton, and you could probably even throw in Darcy. You can't fit all those 4 guys into the team. Darcy's not getting a game. I think he's injured at the moment. Norton, too unreliable. I think they're a bit too top-heavy, and I wouldn't mind. I think they did the right thing. When it started to get a little bit out of hand, they threw Norton back out of necessity after Jones got his arm broken. I don't mind it. I reckon he goes – he could be damaging down back.
Yeah. He didn't. I heard him being injured after that game, and it didn't sound like he wanted to play down back.
Well, that's not Glory Street, is it? Like, unless you're Darcy Moore, who's, as we know, the Kieran Knightley of the AFL, you're not going to be noticed being a backman. And so, Money Town is down forwards. It's like you drive for show and you putt for dough. Well, fullbacks get the ball out of the back line and clear it, but it's the full forwards that get all the glory.
Yeah.
I think there's I don't think they'll stay back. I reckon they'll do if they're. He's the perfect guy to. Hey, we just need to put the brakes on a bit. I don't know. They've got a couple that can come back this week.
Yeah,
they're a bit of an anomaly, and I still don't trust them either. So, couple of things before we wrap up this massive episode, Bevo. Question came from Craigie Jones again. Just Craigie's getting a lot of love on the chat tonight on the travel thing. So we were talking about the travel thing with Fremantle, etc. Should the AFL expand further and split into 2 separate conferences and make the grand final like the Super Bowl?
Don't mind that. I guess it is pretty unfair how you Victorians get to play 20 games at the MCG and, we have to travel every second week. So
You're talking about Adelaide, which is an hour plane flight. You get 11 games at your own ground, all right, with a full ground of supporters, with the best chips and beer in the country. I think that's just the risk that you run. You're playing your 11 games at home. I think for the Perth teams, yes. I just don't know how you're going to fix it because you can't do it with 18 teams. You need 20 teams. Split it down the middle, but what are you going to do? Play each team twice? There's only 18 games. So where are the other 5 going to come from?
And that's like when the Tassie team comes in. What do you do? Have a bye, or do you bring? Or they're going to create another team as well, or are they going to merge? Or what are they going to do?
I've worked it out. I've mentioned it many, many times. It's as simple as each team plays every team once, which gives you 18 games, right? Yep. And then you get a group of 6. That gives you 24 games. The next year, you get another group of 6. And then the third year, you get the last group of 6, and then you just rotate those. So you play every team twice every 3 years. So you play 2-1-1, 2-1-1, 2-1-1.
Don't mind that as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I don't mind? I don't mind you, Bevo. You've been an absolute star. So, just again, for the people who haven't joined us, we've got Bevan Jones from Legends with Bevo, Channel 31 in Victoria, Channel 44. Get on YouTube as well, too. Everything's on there as well.
Thanks, mate.
So before we wrap up this mega episode, I hope you've enjoyed yourself, listeners, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself too, Bevo. But
it's been great, mate. Thank you. I love your setup. Sensational.
Stop it. Don't need a big head. Don't need a big head. So just as a reminder for the people who are sitting here going, I tell you what, Bevo, I like the cut of this man's jib. Where can I catch you up again?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, mate, I'm on YouTube, Legends with Bevo on YouTube, also on Facebook and Instagram, even TikTok, like all the cool kids are these days, Twitter, and also, thanks for that plug, mate, on Channel 31 over there in Melbourne and Geelong, and also Channel 44 in Adelaide as well. So, yeah. And
what I'll do is I will put a link to the Legends with Bevo website in the show notes so you can get on, find everything about him because he's an absolute star. Hey, quick question for you. Who's going to take out the flag this year?
Port Adelaide.
And who's going to win the Brownlow?
Zach Butters.
And will Harley Reid go to WA?
Yes.
Damn. Jeez, all right. There you go, Legends. There you go, superstars. That is Lace Out's round 14 review. Special thank you, special round of applause for the great man, Bevan, as we call Bevo Jones from Legends with Bevo.
Thank you, Peps. It's been an absolute blast, mate.
I've got to give you a round of applause because it's been absolutely sensational.
Hey, mate, I should mention as well, I'm also on all the podcast platforms as well. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, you name it. So.
You name it. We're on every smart speaker, every smart person should have a listen to you. So, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Round 15, we're going to another shortened bye round again. But we'll be back this Thursday night with my tips tipped out because how you want your tips, and back again next Monday with Lace Out live here on your favourite Facebook, YouTube, and podcast panel. So, Bevo, thank you very much. Listeners, I hope your team wins, and more importantly, enjoy your footy. It's the best sport in the world. And Bevo, you're a star, mate.
You too, mate.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of Lace Out. Head over to iTunes and Spotify to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And remember, join us every single Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, on our Facebook page with yours truly, Christopher Pepper, and the co-host with the most, Jamie Wallis, giving you your footy how you want it. Lace Out. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of Place Out. Head over to iTunes and Spotify to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And remember, join us every single Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, on our Facebook page with yours truly, Christopher Pepper, and the co-host with the most, Jamie Wallis, giving you your footy how you want it. Place Out.